everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to the Comic Book Vault. It's time for rapid fire, brand new comic reviews. I'm knocking out stuff from the last 2 weeks. It has been a while since I've managed to do new comic reviews, as I've been busy with Spawn here and lots of other things. As you can tell, it is so obscenely late at night that I felt the need to do today's show while lounging around, for when I am finished with this show, I'm likely to forget to even press the button to turn the camera off and fall asleep right here. But before that happens, I'm going to tell you about all the books I read over the last 2 weeks. And before that even, I want to say thanks as always to Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas. If you were ever in the Kansas City area, check out Elite Comics. They were absolutely fantastic, and I sure appreciate everything they do for Geekvolution. Right now, we're going to jump straight into stuff for the last 2 weeks, just mixing it all up, but still by publication. And we are going to begin with Edge of Spiderverse, Aaron Aikman, Spider-Man #1. This is one of these one-shots. This is, well, kind of a one-shot. It's I guess, a miniseries as they're numbering them. Now that I'm looking at this, it's not #1, it's #3. So this is Edge of Spiderverse #3, Aaron Aikman, Spider-Man. And this is written by Dustin Weaver and also drawn by Dustin Weaver. Really great artwork in this. I really like the kind of high-tech, almost cyberpunky atmosphere of this. I Googled this because I figured that this was maybe like a manga Spider-Man or something. It reads very manga, and I think it's supposed to kind of have those sorts of sensibilities. And I couldn't find anything about Aaron Aikman Spider-Man outside of this one-shot and Spider-Verse stuff. So if this was a thing that pre-existed, and somebody knows more about it than me, somebody leave a comment, but I couldn't find anything on it besides Spider-Verse stuff. Anyway, the idea here is that we're in yet another universe in which somebody else is Spider-Man. It's not Peter Parker, it's this guy named Aaron Aikman. We've still got the same letter for the first and last name thing going on, although it's kind of fun that it's not a consonant. That's sort of unusual. And anyway, so Aaron Aikman is this sort of brilliant, kind of no-nonsense sort of scientist who becomes Spider-Man and uses a whole lot of tech, and he's kind of a techno Spider-Man. And this issue kind of plays around with the classic superhero notion of you can't really have much of a personal life while you're being a superhero. And he has kind of this one tie to humanity who's his girlfriend, and there's kind of soap opera kind of melodrama thing going on between them. She's really quick to kind of burst into tears when she thinks that he's not paying enough attention to her, and everything is very heightened and kind of soap opera in that way. And like I say, everybody's emotions are always running really super high, and it kind of has that kind of manga sort of style of writing, as I said. And anyway, he's trying to foil this kidnapping plot that ultimately ends up having something to do with what's going on in setting up Spider-Verse and all of these different universes all coming together or crossing. And anyway, I thought this was an okay read, not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, but a good setup for this world. And I would say that if you're going to read Spider-Verse, you might appreciate having this backstory. Moving right along, let's go on to Thor God of Thunder #25 by Jason Aaron with art by Assad Ribic. And this is the last issue of this series, but of course, as I'm sure everybody knows by now, Jason Aaron is still continuing with a new Thor #1, just simply called Thor, and that's going to be our new female Thor, the lady who is worthy of the hammer after semi-tiny little spoiler alert, something seems to have happened, we don't know what yet, by the end of this, that makes Thor no longer worthy of carrying his hammer. And there's this new person who is a lady, as the media has been really grabbing onto and making a big deal out of, who is worthy of the hammer of Thor and ends up kind of becoming our new Thor. This is an oversized issue. This is a $4.99 issue, and is mostly a couple of kind of backstories for different characters. One about Malekith and one about Laufey. And the Malekith one's really interesting because it's kind of the first time that we've had really an origin for this character as far as I know, and so you see the kind of the beginnings of Malekith. He's kind of interesting because I can kind of see some kind of vague parallels or at least some slight similarities between him and the God Butcher, and how each of them kind of came to be the really extreme sorts of personalities they are. He kind of has this thing where, or maybe even kind of an antithesis to that, because the God Butcher, it was the gods have never been here for me and for my people, and so I must go kill them all. Whereas here, it's the only thing I've ever known is war with Malekith, and even though war has created everything horrible in his life, it's all he knows and understands, and so ultimately he decides that he must embrace that and make sure that there is always war and force it to happen even when it wouldn't ultimately have to. That's kind of his backstory. I liked that idea, and it's really chilling the way it reads. I did find myself kind of wishing that we could have had it sort of like the God Butcher over a few issues and not just in a few pages, because it did seem maybe, I don't know if oversimplified is the right word, but just, I wondered if he couldn't have just as easily ended up going the other way. This character, where war was such a horrible thing for him that he ultimately became really anti-war, and I kind of thought, it seemed sort of light switchy, where it was like, well, we need an explanation for why he got this way, so this is the explanation, as opposed to I'm seeing a character-driven thing where this character becomes this extreme in this way. I won't talk about the Laufey thing, but that was kind of interesting too. It's basically these characters in the future, in the future of the Allfather Thor, reading these books and reading these stories they've read 1,000 times, but that of course we didn't know about yet. And then at the end, they stumble upon in a really bizarre, mysterious way, the book that explains the female Thor, and that's where we're about to be. This is kind of a neat way to end this series, I think. Like I said, it's not really a story in its own right. It's more some stories within kind of a little framework. But I really enjoyed it, as I have all of Jason Aaron's stuff, and it ties together with the last arc pretty nicely by the end. Really interested to see what's going on with this new arc, and how he ends up pulling together this whole female Thor thing. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be likely very, very cool. Next up, looking at Uncanny Avengers number 24, March to Axis. So 25 is going to jump us straight into Axis, and I'm so excited about this event because we're going back finally to Red Skull with Professor X's brain, and I'm also in a minute going to talk about Magneto, which also ties into this, and I could not be more excited about this, because this was the thing I thought was so cool about the beginning of Uncanny Avengers, that Red Skull steals Professor Xavier's brain and puts it in his own head and has his powers. It looks like we're gonna get Red Skull Onslaught, which makes a lot of sense and is kind of exciting. Chilling, I think, is a good word for this too. There's some super creepy stuff going on here. But there's also some nice aftermath. What's going on with Havoc? He's got kind of this really sad Two-Face thing going on. It's weird that he looks like Two-Face, but after what happened to him in the previous recent issues, and the sacrifices that he's had to make in trying to keep his daughter from the future alive, even though they came back into the present. There's this really creepy vision thing that happens with Rogue that really disturbed me. I was really impressed with Remender for taking me to this really skin-crawly kind of place. I loved this. I think this book is very much on track. I mean, I really enjoyed the last arc, or the last couple, but with all the like future stuff and coming back to the present and things, I was feeling a little bit lost. I feel like I'm really kind of got a lot more to kind of grasp onto right now, and I'm so excited about this Red Skull stuff. Then, real quick, we've got Magneto number 10, which is also March to Axis. This is Magneto having to go through his own kind of hallucinations, more memories, where Red Skull is trying to torture him physically and mentally by making him relive some of the horrible parts of his past. And we learn some really interesting things about Magneto as he tries to manipulate that himself to see why he chooses some of the more disturbing parts of his past to try to combat what Red Skull is doing. I never put two and two together with Red Skull and considered how good of a foil he could be for Magneto, especially with Professor Xavier's brain, because Red Skull is a Nazi and Magneto was persecuted as a child by the Nazis, which is a lot of why he went the direction he did with you know, the persecution of the Jews, and then how he had that, and then on top of that ended up having the same thing with mutants. It makes so much sense to make Magneto a huge figure in all of this, and to pit him up against Red Skull. Surprised I've never seen that really done before. I don't know that if it hasn't been, but regardless, this is really good. Cullen Bunn is so on his game right now with everything he's doing. I've been so impressed with him lately, and this is no exception. This is absolutely fantastic. Next up, more X-Men stuff. Wow, so much X-Men. This is what happens when you wait a couple weeks and then they keep double shipping so much of their X-Men. So, we go on to Bendis with Uncanny X-Men number 26. This one I thought was kind of classic Bendis decompression. I know I use that term a lot, but it really fits here. We've got a lot of people standing around talking about Xavier's will and how they feel about everything they've just learned about that, and this mission that some of them are supposed to go on, and Cyclops' kind of self-righteous, as some of them think, especially Iceman, who really loses it about this, his kind of self-righteous attitude, where even though he's the one that killed Xavier, he feels like Xavier is a complete hypocrite in what he reveals in his will about this really super all-powerful mutant that he manipulated and took away a lot of his memories, and it really did kind of a lot of the X3 thing that we found out in X3 that Xavier did to Jean Grey. We kind of have a similar thing in his past going on here. And Cyclops is really angry about it and says that, you know, they were taught that to give every mutant a chance, and that every mutant had the capacity to control their powers, and we find that Xavier found a mutant that it turned out he couldn't do that with. And I thought last issue did a pretty good job of showing us why he felt the need to do that. The weird thing I think for this, though, is that Xavier has been pretty, like, ethically ambiguous in the past. Like, this is not the first time we've seen him do something like this, and for Cyclops to lose it the way he has really has been bugging me just a little bit, and it feels a little bit forced. Like we've got to have this kind of sanctimonious thing so that characters can continue to have reasons to be really angry and freaking out on him about, like, his double standards and stuff. I'm not wholly buying that. This is not a bad issue. A lot of the dialogue, as always, is really good from Bendis. I just feel like we're really kind of dragging this out a little bit and taking our time, and I'm wanting some more story, and not as much just like kind of dramatic speeches and stuff. Still a good read. This stuff is, I'm sure, reading a lot better altogether than separately, but I will say that I am enjoying all new X-Men right now, kind of a little bit more. This is all new X-Men number 32, also by Bendis, with art by Muhammad Asrar, and now we are finally just straight up unabashedly doing a thing that a lot of folks, I'm sure, are resisting, and I have been a little bit. Having said that, this is really fun. I really enjoyed this read. As you can see from the cover, just coming right out, yep, we're mixing Ultimate with Marvel, with 616 as a matter of course now. It's just happening. There we go. We have something at the end of last issue that caused a bunch of the all-new X-Men to wind up in Miles's universe, including Jean Grey. And there's this really kind of fun first meeting with them, where a confrontation where Miles is thinks that Jean Grey is just the regular Jean Grey from his universe, and he starts saying all these things, trying to spark her memory or something, and he talks about Galactus, since that just happened, and all these things, and she says, I understand most of the words that are coming out of your mouth, but I have no idea what you're talking about, and I thought that was kind of fun. So, I say that we're kind of unabashedly mixing the universes. I guess we were already doing that with 616 Galactus over at Ultimate, but now we've got the opposite thing happening. What's making it work for me is that we've got Bendis spearheading it, and since he's writing both the main stuff at Ultimate, since he's writing Miles Morales Spider-Man there, and then he's writing this, the writing is really consistent, and I'm actually really kind of enjoying it. We're seeing the mutants having to explore the Ultimate Universe and discover that mutant kind there is not only not welcome, but is being completely wiped out. That's been going on, and so they're kind of just coming right out and saying we're mutants, and discovering, oh, you don't want to say that in the Ultimate Universe. I like I said, I had a really fun time with this one. Again, just like the other, a little decompressed. We could maybe be picking up the pace a little bit with this, but I'm enjoying the banter and stuff so much that I'm not minding it nearly as much in this one as I was with Uncanny. What else have we got? We've got Cyclops #5 by Greg Rucka, with art by... who's the artist here? Carmen Carnero. This is okay. I don't have a lot to say about this. I'm still enjoying this series, but I'm kind of hoping that the pace starts to pick up a little bit after this issue. First few pages in this particular issue I thought were pretty slow going, and once I kind of figured out what exactly was going on, I started enjoying myself quite a bit more. Still loving this relationship between Corsair and young Cyclops, and they're kind of bonding as father and son, and it's got this really fun, quirky space pirate feel. They find that there's this woman that's hunting Corsair for a bounty, and Cyclops has to fight her in this really cool sword fight, and it's very swashbuckly. The more I'm thinking about it, I guess I enjoyed this more than I thought I did. Like I said, first few pages I had a tough time really getting with it, but after a while, it got really kind of quirky and space absurdist, and I really enjoyed that. Just a couple more things from Marvel this week. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy #19. I am really loving what Bendis is doing with Guardians now. I guess it's just Bendis week for Marvel. It's like all I'm talking about is Bendis. But this one and the last one I was really having a good time with. I guess partly because I love Thanos, and this whole scenario is really cool and very much my cup of tea. We've got Star-Lord stuck with Nova and Drax and Thanos in the negative zone, and in this issue we discover, this is a minor spoiler I guess, we discover that Thanos that nobody in the negative zone can get killed. Now this might be a thing that you knew already if you're a big Marvel person that's read stuff from negative zone. I guess I didn't realize that the negative zone was a place where you couldn't die. I suppose that makes sense, since that's now that I'm thinking about it, since that's the place where Johnny Storm was when he supposedly died. I wonder if he didn't get killed over and over again there, like what happens here. But it's played as a big reveal, so I wonder if that's a thing that we knew or not. But anyway, it's kind of this potential like horrible curse, where if they're all stuck there and they're never able to leave, and Thanos can just kill them over and over again, that would be hell. One of the things I really enjoyed about this is the contrast between Drax and Star-Lord, where Drax is loving it because he's fighting off these hordes of creatures, and then we get the Revengers, these opposites of the Avengers, and Drax is fighting them, and it's like he's finally getting to fight the war he always wanted to fight, and so for him it's heaven, and for Star-Lord it's hell, and I thought that was really cool. When you get to the end of this, I kind of expected this would just be a 2-issue story. The end of this had a really good cliffhanger, and I'm excited to read more of it. The one big complaint I have about it is I don't think we need the framework. There's this kind of cute framework with Gamora being told the story by Star-Lord, and I don't think we need that. I kind of wish we could just do this, do all this completely in scene without him having to explain it to her. Could be we get to the end and there's a really good reason for that. I mean, I guess I don't want to complain, oh, we know they all make it out, because of course, well, we're not going to kill any of these characters here, so okay, whatever. But I just don't really see that we need that. I kind of wonder why we can't just tell the story instead of, especially because it's really riveting. I'm enjoying it. Instead of having to occasionally interrupt it with Gamora going, "Oh, Star-Lord, I don't believe what you're telling me," and I don't know. She's got him tied down to a chair because she's not trusting him right now, and I'm not sure that we need all that, but I guess we'll see. Last Marvel book for today is Amazing Spider-Man number 1.5. This is the end of Learning to Crawl. I've really been enjoying this series. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, this is Dan Slott, in rare form, I think, going back to the early days of Spider-Man and kind of fleshing out some stuff and kind of giving us the origins and genesis of particular things in Spider-Man's past. And I've talked to Dan Torrey about this, and I guess there are other things that Dan says, because he knows Spider-Man a lot better than me, that have done it better than this. Me being ignorant of all of that, I think this is pretty good stuff. What we're getting here is the origin of Peter as Spider-Man's kind of jokey nature. Now, I'm not sure that we need a genesis for that. It's maybe an unnecessary kind of origin thing, and yet the way it plays here I really kind of liked. The idea is that that Peter, of course, he has a sense of humor, but that he's had a difficult time tapping into it since Uncle Ben died, and he says that he's been trying to live up to his death and not his life, and Aunt May kind of reminds him that Uncle Ben wasn't just like these big moral platitudes. He also had a lot of heart, and he knew how to live life, not just how to like embody these principles. And I kind of like that Spider-Man has to learn that he's more than just like a catchphrase. And so by the end of this, he starts to develop the witty banter in the Spider-Man suit and realizes that he can actually really use that as an asset in fights and things. And I thought that was a really good idea. Before we go on to DC, let's take a look at some IDW stuff, and I want to start off, sadly, tears, with the final issue of Ghostbusters. This is Ghostbusters number 20. I don't understand how we get to Ghostbusters 30th anniversary, and instead of doing some kind of like big exciting new arc, I mean, yeah, we got mass hysteria and that's ending this, and maybe that's what it was supposed to be, but you'd figure like the 30th anniversary would be when they're starting a book or something, not canceling it. I think it's really unfortunate that this book didn't get the numbers to keep going. I'm assuming that's the reason that it got canceled. Eric Burnham certainly seemed really bummed about it, and it seemed to come out of kind of nowhere. I don't know all the details, but I would assume that's somewhat the case, especially because of kind of how abruptly this ends. This issue in a mass hysteria is called Parting Ways, but there's not as much ways parting as you would expect. This certainly caps off this arc okay. Certainly by the end of it, the stakes are never as high as I really kind of think they ought to be. I had like this fleeting moment where I was like, oh man, stuff's going down, and then I don't know, what happens with Winston is kind of tragic, sure, but there's something about this book, and this is my one complaint about it. It's always funny, it's always witty, it always throws me for some curveballs, but there's this weird thing about this book where for some reason a lot of the time I just never really feel like there's really any danger, and it's, you know, it's about ghosts, it's about spirits. There's like a fly or something. It's about the dead rising, and it's supposed to have this horror comedy vibe, and even though there's that comedy element, you know, it's supposed to be kind of unnerving too. And I don't know, I guess maybe the movies are kind of this way too, but I just never really feel any big stakes in this book for some reason. I don't know. That's my big complaint about it. It is still a lot of fun. This is a good Winston story. I really like that he gets a chance to shine so much in this book. And as I said, he does ultimately have to make this really big sacrifice that Gozer makes him go through, and it is really kind of sad. And it ends on a little bit of a downer, I suppose. You get to the end, and there's kind of a laundry list of characters and where they go after this, because there's not going to be another book immediately following this, and Burnham is hoping that at some point they bring it back, but you know, he doesn't know, and they still have the license. They're doing the Ninja Turtles crossover, but for now this is the end of this book, and that's really unfortunate, because despite my one big qualm, this has been really fun month to month, and I always look forward to it. Okay, we've got Super Secret Crisis War number 4. This is, of course, the big crossover event between a bunch of Cartoon Network properties. And while there is one big plot development that is kind of fun and exciting, and then a big cliffhanger in which, and I won't say who, one of the villains kind of turncoats and goes with the good guys, which is pretty fun, and I've been enjoying all the power struggle stuff with all the villains. The thing that bugs me about this book is that it's always in the same setting, and it seems to it seems to still be kind of more about the setup and the novelty than really about telling a story. I feel like the narrative is stretched out. I feel like we've got like a 2 or 3 issue narrative stretched out over several issues, kind of like we did with Star Trek Next Gen and Doctor Who, in that we've got this huge canvas to play with, and we're kind of spending more of our time explaining what the rules are and what the villain plot is, and not really telling a lot of story. So, like, all these characters get a chance to shine, and they get to say funny and witty things, and this is kind of the way I felt about Star Trek Doctor Who, except less of this is recap. At least it's not like flashbacks to a bunch of scenes that I've seen before. But with this, I keep kind of waiting for things to pick up. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of fighting and stuff, but it really does kind of just seem to mostly be like the novelty of, hey, look, you get to see all these characters together. And I would have kind of hoped for this kind of grander scale of, you just get to see all these characters together and they maybe visit each other's worlds, or it's like everybody in one world, but we go to more places than just kind of a generic drab giant laboratory. That's my one complaint about it. As I said, there is one development for the villain plot that I thought was kind of exciting, and then the big reveal at the end, the turncoat thing was pretty cool. Next up, we've got Turtles in Time number 4. This is the end of this mini-series, and I really enjoyed this. This is the Turtles going now to the future. We went to these different places in the past. It was a little bit Return of Bruce Wayne for a while. Now we're actually in the future, in a Shredder-controlled future where there's all these mutates running around, and everybody, mostly at least where they are in Manhattan, work for the Shredder. And we see an elderly Donatello where he's by himself and everybody else is gone because they all decided to fight back and they lost, but Donatello was the one who decided to quit and he's still alive. And Donatello gets kind of a nice I don't know if I want to say a character arc in this so much as just he gets to really kind of think about who he is and how his kind of sensibilities differ from the other turtles. He has to admit that he has considered himself quitting before. That he's the one of them that's most likely to kind of be pacifistic and to think more about survival than about just upholding his ideals and in the ideal of always fighting for what's right no matter what. Perhaps his kind of more enlightened shall we say, sensibilities make him a little bit more likely to do what the other turtles would think is the really frightening thing of sacrifice ideals in order for the sake of the greater good, for the sake of greater survival. And so it kind of plays with those philosophies a little bit, and I really appreciated that. I really enjoy getting this future from the Turtles' perspective, and they're not really knowing where they are, and the mystery of what exactly they've gotten themselves into is really good stuff at the beginning, because for a minute they feel like they're in a place where they can walk freely without anybody questioning what they look like, because there's all these other mutates everywhere. And then we find out that of course is too good to be true. Once again, just like I felt like with the Feudal Japan issue, I would have liked to have seen this actually stretched out over 2 or 3 issues. I think a lot more could have been done with this. But this one plays, I think, better in one issue than that one did, and I was impressed with that. It was quite good. Lastly, for IDW, we've got X-Files number 16, which was just, well, I mean, saying super creepy, I guess, is kind of redundant for X-Files. You would expect that. But this made my skin crawl. This was like really disturbing, and what we've got here, you know, a lot of X-Files stories are either alien things, or they're occult things, or they're like religious occult things, and this goes into that religious direction, and it starts off with a woman who appears to be going to get an abortion at an abortion clinic that's being protested against by all these protesters. There's some pretty heavy kind of hot button issue stuff going on in this, and it's not yet preachy about it or anything. It's just that's the backdrop. That's what it's about. And X-Files did a lot of things like this, so I thought it was quite consistent. By the way, this is one of the issues that I've read so far that most feels like it should have been an episode on television. I think the writing here is really up to spec for that show, and I think the script would have translated wonderfully to television. But this woman goes into this clinic, and instead of getting an abortion, it turns out she's actually got a bomb in her stomach, and she blows the place up. And the whole thing is this mystery about who she is, why she did that, and there is of course a supernatural component to it, and there is a religious component to it. And when you get to the end and what the cliffhanger is, it was the last thing I expected. This is one of the more, so far, we'll see what next issue, one of the more straightforward stories told in this so far. And if you like X-Files and you want to actually really know what's going on, this might be the issue for you. I'm going to go over now to some DC stuff, and first of all, I should mention that I have fallen behind on Batman Eternal, so I will possibly start bringing that back again next week, but I haven't picked it up in the last couple weeks, and I've just fallen behind on it. So anyway, next up, I'm going to talk about Multiversity tie-in called Society of Superheroes, of course, written by Grant Morrison. This is a slightly larger $5 issue and worth every penny. I really enjoyed this. This is kind of giving us these little tie-in one-shots are kind of giving us a window into some of these other universes that are all being affected by this multiversity thing. As far as I can tell, this is one of those things where you probably don't need to read all of them, because I think multiversity is a regular event where we get a Multiversity issue every month, and then there's these tie-in things, but it looks like Morrison is, at least he wrote this one. I imagine he's probably writing all of them. I don't know, I haven't looked real deep into this. But anyway, he seems to, this seems to be another one of his really expansive, complex babies, and I would be very surprised if anybody else was getting to write them. But anyway, this kind of takes us back to the Golden Age Justice Society of stuff, and this is the Society of Superheroes, so we get characters like Dr. Fate, and like the original Green Lantern. We get Abin Sur as Green Lantern in this, and a lot of characters that you've actually heard of, which is a thing that this has going for it over the first issue of Multiversity, which has some kind of weird peripheral characters like Captain Carrot and like the Superman from Earth 23 that I have heard of or seen in things. But this actually has some somewhat more mainstream characters from DC, and you get to really, this is one of the best examples of Morrison going back to that really, really early stuff and kind of contemporizing it and finding a way to mix even that kind of writing with his more modern sensibilities and making it really super uber creepy. So it definitely has a more mature flavor and is not for kids, and has very, I don't want to say really adult language, it's not like a lot of swearing, but definitely more adult language, and it's certainly heavier in its ideas and things. These characters are really coming alive on the page to me. I feel like I really get to know these characters by the end, and they're really kind of drawn from scratch, so I don't feel like you have to know these characters in the first place to read about it, but you might enjoy this even more than maybe you did the first issue of Multiversity if you read that, if you're a big DC fan, because you will have at least, you know, heard of some of these characters, maybe seen them in things before, and the Justice Society is having to deal with all of this weird reality bending stuff, somewhat similar to what's going on over at Marvel with the the Spider-Man, the Spiderverse thing, and even with the Ultimate thing, you know, crossing the 616. Seems like everybody's doing this kind of thing right now, and it looks like even 52 itself might be doing something similar, which I'll get to here in a little bit. We are obsessed right now with realities merging and with time travel causing crazy reality bending issues in the case of Marvel. Here it is still that very kind of meta idea of every universe is somebody else's universe's comic book, and there's more comic book reading stuff that goes on in this. There's like a coveted comic that nobody's supposed to touch that influences things in this, and I don't want to talk too much about it. I think folks should read it. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Blackhawks are in this. There's some really cool old school stuff that Morrison goes back in and touches on in this. I really like this. And, what else? Batman 66, number 15. I don't have a lot to say about this one. This is probably the most disappointing issue for me so far, which isn't saying much. It's still good and funny. I like the Batman and Robin banter in this more than I have in some of the other issues, but the villain plot is not especially impressive or anything new. It's Black Widow kind of manipulating the Penguin to kind of do her bidding, and then the Penguin ends up having to team up with Batman and Robin to go against her. It's kind of typical 66 Batman fare. Not a whole lot to say about it. But you know, if you've been liking this book and reading it regularly, you will probably enjoy this issue. But I wouldn't recommend it as a starting place, really. Okay, Superman Doomed. This is the end. This is Superman Doom number 2. So this is another one of those events where we started with Superman Doom number 1, and then we crossed in a bunch of stuff, and then now we have number 2. It's kind of the Alpha Omega thing. What do I say about this? First of all, much of the plotting in this is really just a whole bunch of people talking about what the ideas of the story are. A lot of identity things, a lot of like why Brainiac does what he does, trying to somewhat humanize him a little bit, like he's I don't even want to say misguided. It's like he's really demented and twisted, but he sees what he's doing as right for the universe. He has this really bizarre idea, and I guess I've heard this before. This kind of philosophy of things don't exist without, like, the universe itself, like stuff doesn't exist without self-aware people to perceive them, and therefore we created the universe. And that idea is played in this, where Brainiac says, because that is true, I can bring all these people together and recreate the universe in my image and make it a better place. And he keeps showing Superman all of these different scenarios of the kind of great life he could have if only he embraced this idea and, gave up his individuality and all of that. Kind of an interesting idea. It's very out there. The way it's handled, I think the idea is more interesting than the actual execution of it, because, as I said, a lot of it's really just kind of people talking about stuff, and the pacing for this whole series, I think, has been really kind of wonky and off, and I think that it's had a hard time deciding exactly what it wants to be about, because that idea comes a little too late, I think, because early on it's a lot more. I mean, I don't think this really works. It's a lot more of an identity thing of, does Doomsday represent something that was in Superman all along? By the time we get here, it's still more of a Doomsday is just something in his head that possessed him, and if he's there and he's all-consuming and Superman can't stop him, then he's more Doomsday than he is Superman. There's not really a very interesting identity thing at play there. It's just kind of, what's happening in the story. Much more interesting to me, actually, is Brainiac possessing Lois, and then when he leaves her, she's still sort of has that Brainiac look and still has telepathy. I think it would be interesting, and I don't think they're doing this, but I think it would be interesting to actually keep her character that way for a while and to let her have these superpowers and see what Lois Lane as a Brainiac would be like. I kind of like the idea. I kind of sort of wish we'd stay there. The action continues to be really fun when we have it, and it's not just people standing around. I like the art in this. Lots of people drew on this, including Krasinski. I didn't even realize that, but Ken Lashley, Corey Smith, Dave Bullock, a whole bunch of people drew on this. But the real thing that is kind of a big deal to talk about with this, and I guess I can't say much because it's, it would spoil the ending, is the last couple pages. Superman doesn't entirely succeed by the end of this, and I mean, he sort of does. He has kind of a big sacrifice thing. And what happens at the end is another big kind of mind freak, what's going to happen to all of the, universes in the multiverse and all the different DC timelines and stuff. This feels like it's setting up some kind of a crisis-y sort of thing. Again, you get to the end of this and you see a whole bunch of different kind of time periods and I don't even think universes. I actually think just kind of time periods of that have been canonical in the past of the Marvel universe that we haven't seen in a long time since 52, and it looks very much like eventually they might be trying to change this again. Maybe 52 is not really working out for them as well as they were hoping, and because 52 was so compromised, where they didn't just start over, they kept certain things and they got rid of other things, and it got really confusing, and the whole thing just was not cohesive at all. It was really hard to tell what you were supposed to take from before and what not, and a lot of writers couldn't figure it out. I would not be surprised if they didn't keep the best, or what they think is the best of 52, and kind of go back to some old things or start over entirely, which is a thing I kind of thought might happen earlier, and then it looked like they were really kind of in for the long haul with this 52 thing, since they're still calling it that and everything. But then I get to the end of this, and I'm like, either this is just sort of a fun gimmick where we can play around in those universes and try to appease or in like kind of different timelines of the DCU and sort of appease people that aren't digging 52. Maybe that's what's happening. I'm not sure. And then of course, you also got to wonder, how this is going to fit in with the whole Future's End thing, because that's a possible future, or is it? What exactly is that? So I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't know exactly where all of this is going, but it's kind of the last thing I expected at the end of this. I didn't really figure Superman Doomed was going to be this big, huge, giant, hey, look, we're doing a big thing in the future setup kind of event. I kind of thought it would be more isolated than that. Overall, Doomed is incredibly lopsided. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's not real smart, and it's insane. It's ridiculous, and I kind of wish it didn't have to be a Brainiac story. That's mostly just a taste thing, but I do kind of feel like there's a little bit of a been there, done that thing, except for Brainiac's whole weird philosophy thing, which is interesting. But anyway, that's how I felt about that. Okay, and then how much? Two more things, real quick. We've got a couple of these Future End one-shot tie-in things. I haven't been reviewing these because I haven't been reviewing anything the last few weeks, so you haven't seen me talk about any of this stuff. I will say that I really liked the Jeff Lemire one, the Green Arrow one. I was really glad that that team got to actually write and draw that, and it was nice to have kind of one more hurrah there. I mean, I'm sure, you know, being a possible future, it doesn't really count or anything, but it was kind of fun, and that's the issue that tells you what really happened with the whole Green Arrow death thing. So you might want to check that out if you're really into Futures End. I haven't continued reviewing it because I didn't really care for it much after the first few issues. But I liked that a lot. I decided to dabble in a couple of things, especially from books that I'm reading. So I grabbed Red Lantern's the one shot for Future's End, and it's okay. I enjoyed the art a lot. I thought it was I thought there was some kind of neat, a couple neat surprises, but overall I just think the whole ring thing is too simplistic. The whole idea here is that Guy Gardner in the future he tries out every kind of ring and figures out that blue is the best, and he discovers he becomes like a really noble version of Guy Gardner. He seems really the antithesis of what Guy Gardner always used to be, and he discovers his a penchant for hope, and that the blue ring is the best because it's hope. Now, what I really wondered was, I thought the rings chose people. I didn't think they got to choose the rings. I don't know how in the world he managed to put on and take off all these different kind of rings and gets to carry them around with himself. There's, as far as I could tell, really no kind of explanation for how that happened or how that works or anything. And it all struck me as a little bit too easy. I don't know. That's about all I have to say about it. A little bit sappy, I think. Honestly, it's not brilliant. If you like Red Lanterns, I would say maybe pick it up just for the artwork, if nothing else. It was kind of fun to it was kind of fun to see some of the stuff with the rings, and I don't know. For a minute, the mystery as to what exactly Guy Gardner is kind of interesting until I found out what it was, and then I was like, that's really strange. But I should mention that Charles Soule wrote this, and Jay Calafiore drew it. That's about it on that. And then the only other one is Superman, the Future's End one-shot, and this was really cool, actually. I like this one quite a bit. This is Billy Batson, Shazam now, Captain Marvel, Shazam pretending to be Superman 5 years in the future because Superman has disappeared. If you read Future's End, you'll know why. And he feels like the world needs the symbol of Superman, and so sort of like a couple of, I guess this is part of why I liked it, it's sort of like a couple of the fake Supermen from Reign of the Superman, After Death of Superman. He decides that the world needs that symbol, and he puts on the costume, and he wears a helmet so that he can obscure his face, but ultimately people figure out who it is, and everybody gets really kind of upset and up in arms about it, and Shazam. And also, it's Lois Lane's fault that everybody finds out about it, and their conversation about that. I really liked their confrontation, and Lois Lane has to kind of help teach Shazam that he needs to be his own person, and that he is worthwhile too, as Shazam, as himself, and that he needs to not lose his identity in the shuffle. It's like he's sacrificing his own personhood, his own identity, who he really is, in order to keep this symbol of Superman alive. And ultimately, the idea is, and it's a little messagey, but I like the message a lot. And I kind of liked how they got there. Ultimately, kind of the message is the Superman isn't just about that one symbol. He's about encouraging other people to be themselves and to bring what they have, to the hero's table. And so Shazam not just being Superman, but actually finally becoming Shazam again. The idea is that Superman's not the only answer. There are other people who can live up to that as themselves. I like that idea quite a bit. Now it's time to go on to Book of the Week, and I think my favorite Book of the Week was Society of Superheroes, the Multiversity tie-in. I'm really enjoying the crazy, outlandish, jumping all over the multiverse thing with Morrison here. I'm enjoying the metafiction of it all, and I really like how many pages these are getting, and that he's able to really flesh these characters out. I thought Dr. Fate was really cool in this, and I liked Abin Sur quite a bit too. And then I wasn't really blown away by any cover this week, but I guess I'll go ahead and pick Turtles in Time. This is an intriguing cover if you just see it on the shelf. Oh man, it's this crazy future where the Shredder's taken over. There's all these different mutates. I like a descriptive cover as much as I like a descriptive title. It's nice when the cover actually has something to do with the book. And if I was a kid and I saw this, this is a book that I would probably want to pick off the shelf. Well, I want to say thanks as always for watching my super late at night rapid fire comic reviews. And if you're ever in the Kansas City area, as I said earlier, be sure to stop by Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas. And if you would ever like to send us anything to review on the Comic Vault, you can send that to our P.O. Box. Our brand spanking new P.O. Box, that's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 4733, Overland Park, Kansas 66204. If you are working on an independent comic and you would like to see it on the show for review, be sure to send it to me in the mail, or you can send me a link to a PDF or some kind of a download on the contact page on Geekvolution.com. Thanks again for watching. Sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan, and I'm going to bed.